The celebration of the Concord Chamber Music Society's 20th anniversary season continues with a very special event, as the legendary Juilliard String Quartet performs music by Mozart, Dutilleux, and Brahms, Sunday, January 12th at 3 p.m. at the Concord Academy Performing Arts Center. The program begins with the third of the 6 celebrated quartets Mozart dedicated to Franz Joseph Haydn. Although Mozart had already written 13 works in the genre when he began composing his so-called Haydn quartets in 1782, the technical complexity and expressive range of these pieces far surpasses his previous achievements in the form. Their composition reflected a crucial change in his personal circumstances. When Mozart left his native Salzburg in June of 1781 to settle in Vienna, he was a 25-year-old who was eager to establish his independence both as a person and as an artist. And in this respect, Haydn, who'd won the privilege to own, publish, and promote his music from his court employers 2 years earlier, served as a creative and entrepreneurial model. The older composer had not only essentially invented the string quartet, he'd molded the genre into an outlet for many of his most original musical expressions. Vienna in the 1780s was already one of the great artistic capitals of Europe, a city where a growing middle class with greater financial resources at its disposal for recreation and entertainment was generating a more democratic musical culture. Concert performances, which had traditionally been semi-private affairs hosted by the nobility, were being supplanted by presentations given before a paying public, and the market for music publication was expanding to meet the needs of enthusiastic amateur players. Thus, by composing his Haydn quartets, Mozart at once created a source of revenue, associated his name with one of Europe's most famous composers, and paid tribute to an artist he truly admired. The nickname The Hunt wasn't given to the third quartet by the composer. It was likely attached to the piece by a 19th century publisher, who presumably derived it from the hopping 6/8 time signature of the first movement and the horn-like intervals of the work's opening theme. As with all the pieces in this set, this quartet is permeated with a transcendent equilibrium of heartfelt emotion and impeccable craftsmanship that would characterize Mozart's mature style and lead his great predecessor to proclaim, "He is the greatest composer known to me, either in person or by name." The program continues with the evocative Ainsi la Nuit, or Thus the Night, by the French composer Henri Dutilleux. Born in 1913, Dutilleux pursued a musical aesthetic that owed little to his 2 great contemporaries, Olivier Messiaen and Pierre Boulez. His relatively small output was the result of an intense perfectionism that invariably yielded exquisitely crafted, sonically vivid works. The dialectical rigor that dominated French composition after the Second World War held little appeal for Dutilleux, and while his music reveals a highly original creative voice, its clarity and sensuousness reflect a tradition dating back to Ravel, Debussy, and beyond. Written between 1973 and 76 for the Juilliard Quartet, Ainsi la Nuit is informed by this regard for the music of past masters, and its composition was preceded by an extensive study of the quartets of Beethoven, Bartók, and Weber. Laid out in 7 continuous movements, its material basis is a 6-note chord heard at the outset that contains the essential substance of everything that follows, a technique derived from the Proustian concept of a lifetime of memory existing within the experience of a single event. The luminous textures that pervade Ainsi la Nuit bring to mind a remark made by Van Gogh, whose Starry Night was a source of inspiration for Dutilleux. "I have a great need of religion, so I go out at night and paint the stars." The program concludes with the performance of the String Quartet No. 2 in A minor by Johannes Brahms. Although Brahms' fear that his symphonies would suffer by comparison with Beethoven's has often been noted, he experienced the same trepidation when composing for string quartet. Indeed, he wouldn't publish his first works in these genres until he'd reached his 40th year, the quartets being preceded by 20 exploratory essays in the form. The A minor quartet is the second of two works published as Brahms' Opus 51, and the analogy between these pieces and their symphonic brethren can be extended to their atmosphere and content. Whereas his first quartet and first symphony are both in C minor and emulate the stormy musical rhetoric that was such a signature of Beethoven's style, their successors show a greater degree of individuation. While Brahms saw the works of his great predecessors as the exemplification of all that is noble and beautiful in music, the 18th century positivism upon which their art was based was essentially alien to him. Personally rent by ambivalence and prone to doubt, his challenge lay in taking forms that reflected the orderly sensibilities of a bygone era and infusing them with a much broader harmonic palette and a mode of expression that was fully integrated and organic. His second quartet is a consummate achievement in this regard, its melancholy A minor tonality dominating three of this highly structured work's four movements and serving as a primary element in the unique synthesis of compositional rigor and profound intimacy that makes this piece one of Brahms' most masterful creations. We hope you'll join us on Sunday, January 12th at 3 p.m. at the Concord Academy Performing Arts Center as the Concord Chamber Music Society presents the Juilliard String Quartet in what promises to be a truly memorable musical event.